I love the sound of one of these, but they can become a bit ear-splitting. So today we're going to take a look at a number of ways that you can combat electric guitar harshness in the mix. Let's dive straight in. Okay, so here's our guitar. It's double tracked. It's a Fender Strat sound. Strats, tellies, very cutting, but can be known to be pretty harsh on the eardrums too. So we're going to be listening to these guitars in isolation, but I want to get across it's certainly really important when you're mixing electric guitars in general, to mix them within the context of the mix, particularly because guitars can get in the way of the vocals as well. So you really want to be mixing the guitars within the mix rather than in isolation. If you're struggling to hear what's going on with your guitars, which can definitely be the case, especially if you've got lots of different tracks of guitars as you're working through the mix, put on a gain plugin, give it 5 or 6 dB of boost, just put it on right at the front of the chain, and when you finish mixing, just simply take that gain plugin off. That's going to help you hear what you're working on and encourage you still to work in within the mix, and discourage you from constantly isolating it, because the thing is with that you can get a great guitar tone, but if it doesn't serve the mix and work in context of the mix, then what's the point? And similarly, when you're working with it within the mix and actually you isolate it, often the guitar sound can not be that pleasing, but it's working within the mix. So that's such an important point. Let's take a listen to these guitars then. So they're double tracked, and we're going to be working on the bus track that they're both being sent to. And the first thing we're going to take a look at is a couple of moves which we've done here with the channel strip to ease harshness. And the first thing is bringing in a little bit of saturation from this channel strip. And we'll look a little bit further at saturation as we work through this chain. But adding saturation can really help, especially with those that top end, to smooth it out a little bit. So as we've got some saturation we can run in on this channel strip, and just bringing a little bit of that in. And the second move that I've done to address harshness is bringing in a low pass filter. Now, you know, guitars are mid-range instruments, so a lot of that hair at the top of the guitar, especially if you're running a fair amount of drive on it, can be, you know, unnecessary in the mix and clog up the higher frequencies, and particularly can get in the way of the vocals as well. So running a low pass filter anywhere from 10 to 7k, I've gone right down to 5.6 on this channel strip. I've got a couple of other moves here too, but let's just take a listen to the channel strip on and off. So here's our guitars as they are double tracked. And let's bring in our channel strip. Back off. And back on. And of course, in the context of the mix,
don't look in the eye, forbidden stare. Oh, it's a little story about my neighborhood. There's trouble in the streets, it don't look too good.
And on. So we're starting to address that harshness, but there's definitely still some more work to be done. So let's move on now to another EQ. This is just a stock EQ. It's within Studio One. And you can see I've got a number of cuts here around what I think is the magic frequency when it comes to dealing with harshness, and that's 3K. Anywhere around 3K is typically where I always find that frequency which really burns your ears. So we're actually almost exactly at 3K here. So what I'm going to do is just open up the cue and give you a good example of what that sounds like. Let's just solo it out and take a listen. That's what I'm talking about. So we're doing more surgical cuts here because we don't want to destroy the presence of the tone of the Strat, but we want to get in there and get rid of some of that ear splitting. So let's take a listen now. With those cuts and without. So that 3K area is a really great starting point if you're fishing around for harshness in your electric guitar. take care if you're boosting for clarity and presence and you want that guitar to cut through the mix. You're going to be looking, say, between 2 and 6K, and of course that's where that 3K falls into. So when you are, or if you are making that boost, just take care that you're not actually adding more harshness to the problem too. Now I'm running a bit of compression on these clean Strat electric guitars. They're just thickening it up a little bit with an LA3A from Black Rooster. Actually, I'll let you hear what that sounds like. Here's without. And on. No more than 1-2 dB of gain reduction really helps to thicken up those clean Strat tones. But I wanted to mention it because if you are using compression on your guitar, then you want to be putting it after you've made those cuts, particularly if you're making cuts for harshness. Let's move on to tape. So I want to show you a couple of tape plugins, both from Softube and both effective. One much more heavy-handed than the other, but tape and saturation is your best friend, certainly when you're dealing with harshness on the electric guitar. Now this one, Dirty Tape from Softube, is very, very heavy-handed. So a little goes a really long way. Let me show you what I mean. So this is set right down in the minimum. In fact, it's right at the bottom here of Dirt. I've just got a tiny bit of drive. And it's great. Sometimes I find it can dull the guitar just a bit too much. Let's just take a listen. Without. And with. Next.
Oh, it's a little story about my neighborhood. There's trouble in the streets, it don't look too good.
So it's a super effective plugin for dealing with that harshness, but I just feel it's taking a bit too much brightness out of this one on this occasion, even at really low settings. So I've settled for Tape, which is again from Softube. It's a lot subtler than Dirty Tape, but it's doing the job. What I do is just mute out those vocals so you can just take a listen. And without. Back with. Just helping to smooth out the harshness of the guitar without taking away too much of that clarity and brightness, which I also want to hear within the mix. And at the end of this plugin chain, I've just dropped in Gorilla Drive from the guys over at Safari Pedals. Just gives it a little bit more drive, a little bit more colour and thickness. And I've also dropped in a little spring reverb too. Let's take a listen to our guitars with this plug-in chain on and off and see how we've combated that harshness. So here's where we started. Just a bit scratchy. And on. With our vocals.
It's a little story about my neighborhood. There's trouble in the streets, it don't look too good. Don't look in the eye, forbidden stare.
Back off.
Oh, it's a little story about my neighborhood. There's trouble in the streets, it don't look too good.
I hope you enjoyed that one today. I've got a free channel strip guide. You can grab it below this video. It's got 5 industry techniques to help you get better mixes from your home studio today. If you want to take your mixes and productions to the next level, I've got also a whole bunch of courses. You can check them out from the link below this video. I'm going to give you 10% of those courses right now with exclusive coupon code YouTube10. Of course, don't forget to like and subscribe up here on YouTube. Most importantly, go and have yourself a great day.